We are moments away from one of the most anticipated events since Watergate. The breakdown starts now. Welcome to the breakdown. I'm Tara Setmayer. This is the Rick Wilson. And tonight it's all about one thing. Not like City Slickers one thing when Curly was going to tell everyone what the one thing was. No, the one thing today, Rick, is the January 6th hearings. We've been waiting almost a year for this, and it's opening night. And I've got to tell you that I've had like a lot of weird emotions today. I don't know about you, but I've just been in a weird place today because I have to be emotionally prepared to relive this. And we weren't even there. Imagine what it's like for the people who were there. I think it's going to be pretty powerful, I think.
You know, Tara, I think you're right. And I've been feeling the same thing today because on 1/6/21, you and I were talking all day long during the course of this, and we went on the air that night live and just talked.
Yep.
And a lot of folks have written to me over the year since then that night was something where they needed to hear somebody trying to put it in context for them, somebody trying to explain what the hell was happening in this country and in DC that day. And I'm grateful tonight that folks are joining us to share this moment. And I'm grateful for the 1/6 Commission. Although I've been a critic of them in some ways, I am grateful they have held to it, that they're going to put this in prime time, that they're going to go out there and they're going to try to begin to bring some accountability to the conspirators who put this plot together, who encouraged and organized this plot, who encouraged and organized the violent attack on our Capitol and on our Capitol Police. And in the big picture of wanting accountability for what they tried to do to our republic and our democracy, I also want, and I know you feel this as a law enforcement family member, I also want some accountability for these goddamn bastards who beat cops with flagpoles and fire extinguishers and who led to cops committing suicide. Those guys, those men and women trying to hold the line against a murderous mob that was screaming, "Take their gun! Take their gun!"
Yeah, shoot him with his own gun.
Shoot him with his own gun.
That's a quote.
That were assaulting these officers, and it is one of the things that I find the most egregiously offensive about that whole day. Is these are folks that don't make a ton of money. They're working class folks who get up every day to protect our elected members of the House and Senate and their staffs.
Yeah,
they were on the front line, and they were the primary targets of the initial assault. And I hope to God somebody brings some accountability to these people. And I hope that at some point, well, we'll get to another thing. Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I mean, it's raw emotion because for all of us, and like I remember that night clearly, that day I was in tears watching that unfold. My husband was actually working that day, but not at the Capitol. He was down by the Washington Monument and that area. But still, I mean, I worked on Capitol Hill for many years. I walked those hallways. It felt like a personal attack on my own family. Like it was so the visceral reaction to it. And that night we just let it fly. And I think you're right. We gave a safe harbor to a lot of Americans who were trying to figure it all out and gave them a voice through us, and knowing that collectively we were all in this together in our outrage. And you're right. To watch the way the Republicans tried to, well, they made a complete 180. Initially, they were criticizing what went on, and they, told the truth because it was their asses on the lines. Right.
For about 5 minutes, they told the truth.
That's right. And, it was their asses that these crazy mob, these murderous rioters were coming after. They didn't care whether they were Democrat or Republican. They didn't care. And so, Lindsey Graham, I'm out, and the whole thing.
It's been a great journey, but I'm out.
Yeah, but I'm out. Please, Mitch McConnell giving the speech of his career and all, McCarthy, all of them, they all knew.
Sure.
But then for them to turn around and just become absolute hypocrites on this, to downplay it and diminish it and attack the integrity of those officers, that is something that I'll never forgive them for. I won't forgive them for a lot of things, but that's something that particularly stands out to me, because those were the guys who put their lives on the line to save those ungrateful bastards.
That's
and
right.
tonight, I want
Kevin McCarthy today saying, when he was asked today in their little dog and pony show, do you still blame Trump? He goes, I blame all America.
All of us. Yeah.
Get the fuck out. You know what, Kevin? About 80 million Americans didn't send people to go down there to beat cops. They didn't send people to go down there to try to kill Nancy Pelosi or any other member of Congress that they found. They didn't send people down there to violently assault both our Constitution and our Capitol. I mean, one of the things
both sides. Oh, wow.
Give me a break.
You know what? That was exactly what Trump did when he was asked about Putin being a killer.
Charlottesville too. We're killers too.
But we're not that great either. What? And Charlottesville, right? They do that to have some type of moral equivalence to take away from their transgressions, but we see right through that.
But
and
listen,
hold on, Rick. I just want to remind people that tonight we're going to take your questions live. So if you have questions for us, if you have comments, send them. Send them to us in your chats if you're watching on YouTube, or hashtag Ask the Breakdown if you're watching on Twitter or on Facebook. Just send your questions, and we'll get to them a little bit later in our little pregame show here. I just want to remind people now, give folks a chance to get their questions out. Go ahead, Rick.
One of the things I think it's really important for folks to watch for tonight, I tweeted about this morning, even though they're not, most Republicans are not on the committee. Only 2 had the bravery to do it, Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger. Unlike in the impeachment thing, when you had Republicans in the committee who were disrupting the operations of the committee, like Jim Jordan and Matt Gaetz and Gosar and these others, I do believe you are going to see the Republicans try to disrupt this committee. Maybe not tonight, but certainly during the course of these hearings. I think you're going to try to see them bust in the doors. I think Gaetz and these guys have these perverse political incentives to do this. They desperately want to distract and move away from this. They're going to try, as we just said on the Chiron, flood the zone with bullshit. Okay? And I think it's really important for the committee's leadership, when these people do this, not to play the old DC game of my honorable colleague and I disagree. No. When they bust in the door, the Capitol cops, who know these people, by the way, were on the side of the people trying to kill them, should frog march those fuckers out. Okay? I'd love to see Matt Gaetz get tased. I know that's a lot to ask. Normally he pays to be tased. I'd like to see him I would pay to watch him get tased. But look, these people today have given away the whole ball game. The fact that there's this enormous organized pushback from the right. Oh, it's a joke, it's a sham, it's a fraud, it's a witch hunt, and Nancy Pelosi, this. They are so damn nervous. Yeah. The reason Fox isn't covering this, the reason Fox is hiding in a bunker tonight talking about like Antifa drag school time story hour, whatever crazy melange of bullshit they've got in their brains.
And the caravan, don't forget that.
Oh, the caravan.
Yes. Dun, dun, dun.
And all of this bullshit that they're out there with today, all this pushback, they're doing it what I call the high-low. And it's very important to understand that the national media is buying into the Republican high-low. The high-low is this. They let the scumbag weirdo mutant parade, Gaetz, Gosar, Boebert, Three-Toe Margie, all the idiots go out and do the stunts, and they'll be the ones who kick in the door of the committee room. They'll be the ones who are leaking oppo about members of the witnesses. They'll be the ones who are trying to disparage the witnesses. And I want to say something about that in just a moment. But the high part of it is McCarthy, Stefanik, the grown-ups are calling reporters and going, hey, we want to get work done. This is a distraction from an infrastructure bill or formula or gas prices or inflation. Bullshit.
Exactly.
Bullshit on fire.
Yep.
Let me tell you why. Because for the last year, these people didn't give a shit about gas prices or inflation or baby formula. They were talking about critical race theory. They're talking about Hunter Biden's laptop. They're talking about Antifa. All the idiot parade of these people. And reporters who are falling for this and saying, it's kind of boring, no one's paying attention. That is you being a Washington cultural person, not an actual journalist, if you believe that's the case.
And these are the same people that also treated Trump as an equal during the 2016 campaign.
Right.
That allowed him to be considered a viable candidate.
That's
like
right.
as if he
Well, he
were
seems
someone
like
that
he's
they
doing a serious.
right, right. And it's like, no, this
No.
guy, are you kidding me with this guy? But they gave him a certain amount of legitimacy
That's
by
right.
treating him like that. And they're doing the same thing. They're giving the Republican bullshit narrative legitimacy because by covering both sides of it. Now, listen, I
Right.
minored in journalism, and my original journalism professor, Professor Puffenbarger, who worked for the
Puffenbarger.
yes,
That's a great
did
name.
you have Puffenbarger at GW?
No.
Oh, well, he worked at the Washington Post for like ever. Okay, and I think he was 100 when he was my professor, but he was very feisty. But he was very old school about fairness, get the facts. You have the multiple sources before you can whatever. Now I get that. That is the the old school foundation of good reporting and journalism. However, when for years the journalism community struggled with how to cover Trump, right?
Correct.
They refused to call a lie or when he was lying. Then they finally said, you know what, fuck this. We have to call a spade at this point now. The guy is lying, and they had a ticker with how many lies. It was like 30,000 by the time it was over. But they have to treat it for what him and the Trumpism ideology for what it is. And until they do and stop having any kind of moral equivalency, you're going to give license to these people to try to say that it's legitimate for them to complain about this stuff when it's not. You will see stories
tomorrow in major newspapers that are framed like this. The committee revealed shocking fact X and Y. Republicans claim the election was stolen.
Right.
And they won't treat it with the seriousness it deserves, because they're always obsessively trying to play this both sides are equally bad game.
Mm-hmm.
There are two sides in this equation right now. There were the people who defended the Capitol and defended the election, and the people who assaulted it. And the conspiracy behind that is the biggest political and legal news of our lifetimes. I mean, I
probably
remember,
there's only, I think, two other times in the country that would rise to this occasion. That was the assassination of Lincoln and that plot during the Civil War, and Watergate.
Yeah.
What else has risen to this level?
I'm old enough to remember as a little kid watching Watergate. Okay. I remembered. I was a little kid, but I remember watching Watergate.
For me, it was Iran-Contra. I wasn't born
there
yet
you
for
go.
Watergate.
There you go.
A couple years.
You're damn right. I bought those leotards for my daughters. Oliver North, man, what a character. But here's the thing: we are in a box right now in this country, where part of the Democratic caucus desperately wants to change the subject. They don't want to talk about this either, because there are a lot of DC consultants, Democratic consultants, who are like, the real issue is prescription drug coverage, and here's our 900-page plan. Y'all, you're not going to get any goddamn plan unless you start fighting, unless you go at the people who tried to destroy this country and turn that into the centerpiece of your campaign, because it's the only thing that matters.
It's true. But the thing about it too, even with that, is that if they start framing it in terms of whether this will be good or not good for them for the midterms, then that loses, you've already lost the narrative, because people will automatically chalk it up to just a political stunt. And this is not a political stunt. This is real life. This happened. And so
ask any of those cops who got their heads beaten with fire extinguishers and flagpoles that day. Ask that cop who was jammed up in the door that day. Ask any of these officers who were trying to save the lives of the members of Congress of both parties that day. And I think it is a shocking moment in our political culture that there's any equivalency. And this the zone should be flooded on this with reporters like nothing else. And unfortunately, I think DC has become so profoundly cynical that a lot of reporters are just trying to shrug it off and get on to the next story.
It's true. Well, even some Democrats want to move forward, to your point, which is part of the problem here. They're not, I've said this before, they're not all singing from the same sheet of music. And that's problematic, because even if they're singing off key, Republicans are always singing from the same sheet of music.
They are always disciplined.
Always.
You and I come from that world, and we know it is just win, baby, and stay on message.
That's right. Also, it doesn't matter what's happening.
Stay on message, and also stay on message.
That's right. That's right. The frogs could be falling from the sky, and the message will still be.
You're going to be like, nope.
That's right.
The president's plan will lower taxes for every American.
That's right.
And they will never stop.
That's right.
And it is important, I think, to hold up the mirror to the American people and ask them in some ways if they care, if they really give a damn.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easy right now to think, God, gas prices are so high, inflation's this, and all these things in the world that are wrong. And folks, there are so many things in the world that are wrong. But if you think it's hard to deal with those things now, I want you to imagine what it's like to deal with those things in an authoritarian power structure that we are enormously close to falling into.
Yes.
In 2022, the critical races that we're working on will decide if the day Kevin McCarthy, or rather Elise Stefanik or Jim Jordan, as Speaker of the House, begins planning the impeachment of Joe Biden.
They've said it.
And they'll impeach him for getting a parking ticket.
That's right. Well, the Secret Service would get the parking ticket.
You're going to live in You're going to live in a country that ends up with people who will be elected. If they're certainly these governors are elected, they will attempt to, in 2023, decertify the 2020 election and remove Joe Biden from power.
You don't have to listen to us. They've said
this. This is what they're telling us.
They've
in
said
public,
this in their
on
own
paper.
words. It's not. We're not making this up. So but for whatever reason, it doesn't break through. Partially because of the way it's covered, I think.
Right.
But that's why we do what we do. We have to continue to put the word out there, get the word out, and emphasize what these people are saying and doing. We have to pay attention. Don't just say, "Oh, yeah, they're just crazy." No, yes, they are crazy, but they're also focused and very organized and very dedicated. That's right. And that is a really difficult enemy if you are not the same, equally as dedicated, disciplined, on message for your side. That's what happens. So, that's why we continue to do what we do. And some of the things that we're going to see tonight, you mentioned we were talking about the Capitol Police and the law enforcement officers. And tonight there's supposed to be 2 witnesses, live witnesses among all of the other taped videos and things that we're going to see. One of them is Caroline Edwards. And she is the first Capitol Police officer that was injured on January 6th. I don't believe that we've heard from her. So that's new.
I don't believe so. I was trying to look her up today. I also want to say something about her. There was a little Capitol Hill rumor floating around today that the Republicans were circulating an opposition research package on her.
That is outrageous.
I double dog dare you motherfuckers to try it. Try it. See how that works out with America.
Yeah, exactly.
Back the blue my ass.
Yep.
And this to me is it's another one of those signs that Democrats frequently don't understand the fight. As Triggy always says, the fight you're really in. The fight they're really in is against a group of people who absolutely will do anything to derail these hearings.
There is no bottom.
Anything to change the subject.
That's right.
As somebody said tonight, Kimberly Guilfoyle is probably going to give Sean Hannity a lap dance to draw viewers in at some point tonight.
Didn't we see that already during the convention?
Yeah, I mean,
that's old news. She's going to have to come up with something else more outrageous.
But the distractions they're going to try are boundless. They're going to try to rewrite history. They're going to try to pretend that this is not a massive criminal conspiracy to violently overthrow the 2020 election.
And they'll try to do it again in 2024 if they are not held accountable. I've heard people say, well, this is about the past. We're relitigating the past. People just want to move forward. No, this is about moving forward. This is about the future.
And it is important enough, folks, that tonight we're going to be live with you now. We're gonna have this on we're gonna have the feed. We'll continue to stay live with the 1-6 hearings. We'll be back when the hearings wrap up later tonight. I don't know what time that's going to be, but I've got a case of Diet Coke, so we're good.
Yes, the espresso machine is waiting. Yes, I'm being very bougie with the espresso, but that's okay. A good shot of espresso to make it through. But listen, back in the day when I worked in Capitol Hill, we used to do shots of tequila before the State of the Union. But I would only allow the boss to take 1 shot because I said if I ever caught him sleeping on C-SPAN, I would quit because it's embarrassing. Because C-SPAN would get through when the State of the Union legislature sleeping.
In the Florida legislature, when I worked there were a few Cuban American representatives who had Cuban coffee in their offices. And
so good.
You could always tell the people that weren't from Florida who'd be like, "Oh, I'll have another."
Oh my God.
By the time they're on their third, their heart is pounding. It's like, geez, my heart is pounding like it's the fist of God. Save me.
Cuban coffee is fantastic, especially con
Magic.
leche, which is just amazing.
Magic.
So I can co-sign on that. But so yeah, so that's what's going to happen tonight. We
Yep.
will be back after the hearings are over. We'll be back live with our hot takes on everything and
We'll be
give
answering
our
your questions
assessment.
from the feeds.
Yep, we'll be answering questions again too. And somebody else that is going to testify tonight, which I just found out today, what else he had done. I'd heard that this documentarian was embedded with the Proud Boys, and then when I found out today that it was Nick Quested, who also did the documentary on Restrepo.
Right.
And that if you haven't seen that, that is
Riveting.
an
Absolutely
unbelievably riveting story about embedded with soldiers over there in Afghanistan, right? And it's remarkable. So this is not some half-ass cockamamie documentarian, like some Proud Boy with his camcorder. I'm dating myself, with his iPhone filming them. Like, he was a legit documentarian, and it seems as though he's caught footage that we have not seen yet.
Right.
And he also seems to have caught this brief exchange between one of the Proud Boys, who is currently charged with seditious conspiracy, this guy Biggs, Joseph Biggs. And in this exchange Biggs has with some guy named Ryan Samsel, it's widely seen as the tipping point that precipitated the riot. So they're like talking at this statue, and it's like right before they all marched up to the Capitol. So these are angles of this that we haven't seen yet, because Richard Quest, that's the guy who works for CNN. Nick Quested was there filming it. So I find it interesting that they're leading with him and with Caroline Edwards, this Capitol police officer, which tells me that there has to be some explosive testimony here to draw people in immediately, because you need that in prime time. Even though it's being produced and all that, you have to do that to keep people's attention, unfortunately, in this day and age. But you wouldn't have those people out front unless they had something riveting to offer. That's what I think.
I think that's right. I think that's right.
And
look, I think, we shall see if 6 hearings is enough. I would have preferred a long-running show trial with a gibbet outside as a warning to all, but that's just me. I'm a sterner sort than most. But I will say this: I am told by folks around the committee and on the committee that the release of transcripts and videotape and various communication links between members of this conspiracy are going to be revelatory in ways that will change the character of what people thought happened on that day. And it ain't in a good way for Donald Trump and his claque of conspirators and enablers. And I think this is one thing to really ratchet down on folks tonight when you watch this. I think it's critical. I think it's absolutely vital that as you're watching this, you're sharing this with your family members, you're pushing this out, you're reminding your crazy uncle on Facebook that
this is who he's supporting. This is what he's supporting, by the way.
Right. This isn't anymore an argument about some bygone ideological preference. It's an argument about whether you're going to be on the side of people who will overthrow this government. And even if you think they're the people that are going to do what you want when they overthrow it, better be sure. And people who are protecting and trying to preserve this flawed, beautiful experiment called America.
That's right.
And I am profoundly convinced that public service is anathema to the MAGA movement. Public officials who do right for the country over their careers are poisonous to them. Look at how they've treated Kinzinger, and look at how they treated Liz Cheney. Those
and a handful of others that have spoken out. They've chosen to retire rather than go through.
Those people are worse than Al-Qaeda in their heads. And it is important to watch what public integrity and public service is. And I think, fortunately, the committee is not going to be beset with Republicans on the committee causing a big, show trial ruckus.
That's right.
Which I think is enormously positive for the overall outcome of this.
Because there won't be any distractions unless someone tries to bust into the.
But I hope the committee also does not treat these people lightly. I hope they crack heads. I hope they use their inherent contempt power. I hope they do not let these guys filibuster and jerk them off. It is important that when you get a guy like the podcaster Steve Bannon, who is a member of this entire scummy enterprise, when you get them on in the docket, you don't let them filibuster and rant and pretend and huff. And I hope that they use their time and their questions with enormous effectiveness. I do want to say one other thing, Tara. Jamie Raskin is one of the smartest guys in Congress, Republican or Democrat, no matter what.
Yep.
And I just want to extend to Jamie my heartfelt sympathies about his loss of his son, but particularly, which was several months ago now, but particularly.
It was right before January 6th. Just put for people who don't know, Jamie Raskin lost his son to suicide just days before January 6th. And then January 6th happened. And then they had just, I think, had just buried his son when January 6th happened. And then, it was only a couple of weeks later that he led the impeachment.
Right.
Jamie Raskin is a remarkable guy who his heart for America and his dedication to public service is unequivocal.
The reason I bring this up, Tara, is that this morning, Matt Gaetz, while talking to Marjorie Taylor Greene, came out and started saying, "Oh, well, Jamie Raskin, we don't want to live through Jamie processing his son's suicide on TV."
I can't.
And this is an example of how fucking low these people will go to try to get in the heads of their political opponents. This is how low these people will sink. And it was one of those moments today where it was a real reminder that the cruelty is the point. There is nothing they will not do to seize and hold power. And that if you think that all the bullshit from Kevin McCarthy and Mitch McConnell about and Glenn Youngkin, they're gonna bring back normal Republicans. No, Matt Gaetz is the norm now.
That's right.
That shit is the norm now. He owes Jamie Raskin an apology. He owes the public an apology. He will not give one because he's a scumbag piece of shit.
Yes, exactly.
But
undeserving of political power. But again, this is.
I wouldn't put the guy in charge of a Waffle House.
Well, that's about where he belongs. But no offense to Waffle House, I actually
love Waffle House.
But this is the point. This is the choice. You have to decide which side you're on here. It is a binary choice.
Yep.
Either you're on the side of these people, or you're on the side of the people who are defending democracy. This is not about tax rates or Medicare for all or climate change or whatever the hell. It's not. Those things can be worked out when you get rid of the crazy people who are trying to destroy our institutions and our constitutional republic. Because if you lose that, none of that shit matters. And we will repeatedly say this until people wake up and get off their asses and vote these people out. Or vote people in who will hold people like Matt Gaetz accountable. Like Kevin McCarthy should have excommunicated the Matt Gaetzes and the.
If Kevin McCarthy had the integrity God gave the common sewer rat, okay, he would have called Matt Gaetz on the carpet and said, "Are you fucking kidding me?"
Right. The only time he ever did that was with Madison Cawthorn, because he actually implicated other members in the sex orgies and drug fueled parties. That's going too far.
Can't do that, but we can
do that.
We can go after somebody whose son killed themselves. Fuck you, Matt.
Unbelievable.
Fuck you.
I can't. Well, I want to take some viewer questions. That's what we can do right now. Because we're moments away from the hearing.
Yeah, we do have to wrap up pretty soon.
We want to give our loyal supporters an opportunity to ask us some stuff. All right, Miguel Delgado, Tara and Rick, do you believe that this will move the needle for the nation?
I hope so.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so, but I'm not sure. I have to be honest about that. I think that it's
not going to change overnight.
No.
This is a longer argument played out over these 6 hearings. And what happens in between the hearings matters as much as the hearings themselves.
Yes.
But Miguel, we do hope that it moves the needle. We hope that the committee, and if the committee runs it right and runs it hard, I think it can.
And also, I think if we all do our parts to Rick's
Tara.
point, to amplify this and to make the truth known and spread the word, I think it can matter, because sometimes people don't pay attention.
Right.
So So I think there's some opportunity. I just don't think you're going to see a large swath of the country that, the Fox News crowd and the Trumpers have an epiphany all of a sudden and go,
Right.
you know what?
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh, we were wrong this whole time. And yeah, those people are a bunch of treasonous bastards. I'm with the other side. I'm pro democracy now. You're not gonna. I don't
No,
think
that's
you're
not
gonna see
gonna
that,
happen.
unfortunately.
All right, next question.
All right, next one. Will Rodriguez, how do we not feel helpless? I feel like I'm watching America die one day at a time.
Well, let me give you the simplest answer, is that despair is the weapon in the hands of your opponent.
Mm-hmm.
They want you to feel this way. They want you to feel beat down. They want you to feel lonely. They want you to feel unempowered. They want you to feel like the world's falling apart. Courage is contagious. It is the highest virtue. And being in this fight every day, and it doesn't matter. I said this on Tuesday's show. Not every battle that matters in history requires you to storm a beach.
Mm-hmm.
What it does require you to do is call your elected representatives. What it does require you to do is push back against this giant propaganda machine on the right that is causing this country to nearly collapse. We all of us have a responsibility, and this is why the Lincoln Project, I still believe, is so special in American political life, is we believe that fighting isn't bad. We believe you can and must learn how to fight for this country. You have to stand up, and you can't let these people get your dick in the dirt every day. You got to stand up and not put up with it. They want you to be scared. They want you to be shook. They want you to be despairing. And it's hard for everybody to do that. But you will find yourself much happier on your feet than on your knees, my friend.
That's right. And Martin Luther King said we must accept finite disappointment, but never lose infinite hope.
That is correct.
All right, next. Okay, Moses Saragar, how much of the stench of Trump's big lie and attempted coup will cling to the next GOP candidate, potentially Ron DeSantis? I'll let you take that one, Rick, since DeSantis is your governor.
Look, Ron DeSantis is already plotting to take out Donald Trump. He's working every day.
Oh, yeah.
And he's assembling a large team of Washington, D.C. political consultants that are going to take on Trump, because they now believe that Ron DeSantis is Trump all cleaned up and run through the car wash.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's going to really help if Trump gets in the race. There's a survey out today, a YouGov survey, I believe, that had Trump at 51, DeSantis at 18, everybody else zeros. All these other ambitious young men, Hawley, Cotton, Cruz, the rest of them, all in the single digits or zeros.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to understand that Trump's personality and Trump's cult is not purely transferable. Part of the reason DeSantis is uplifted right now is that all of the gentry Republicans, all of the non-Trumpist Republicans are like, okay, he's a little crazy, but he's not that crazy. He's much more normal.
Right. He can actually complete a sentence.
And he can talk. He's got all the
pedigree,
the signifiers of the meritocracy with Ivy League degrees and blah, blah, blah. Now, he's a very bad guy. And there's some stories out today about legislation he wants in Florida that would essentially give him nearly dictatorial powers in the state of Florida.
Which is just a practice run for what he would want to do if he was president.
He is a more dangerous iteration of Trump in many ways. But the big lie is not going to be what drags them down. These future Republicans, they want the big lie to fall apart. If it does, Trump is weaker and they can run.
That's exactly right. That is
if it
exactly
does, Trump is diminished and they can run.
Because that's all he has. That's all he has to run on.
Kind of is right now.
Right. That's it.
He's the one-note flute, as they say.
All right. One more. Zona 999. Why am I nervous? I think that stems from the same, what I said at the beginning of the show, at the top of the show. Like, I have a certain feeling too. You're not alone with that.
No.
And I can't quite put my finger on what it is. Is it anticipation? Is it nerves? Is it anxiety? Is it anger? For me, it's a mixture of all of those things. I'm nervous that
Sure.
I don't want the expectations to be set so high that they're not met. And then that becomes the story, right? It was Jamie Raskin who said that we were going to blow the roof off the Capitol. Probably not a great pun to use, but that's what I understand what he meant. That these are going to be, explosive hearings. And Maybe. I hope so. That's what the country needs to see. I mean, if that day in and of itself wasn't explosive enough to wake
Right.
people up, I don't know what is. But I just don't want I want to set expectations to be something that can be reached, not some, I don't want to be let down. So I'm a little nervous about that. I don't want them to mess this
Sure.
up, because you get one shot, right? You get one shot at this. If they screw up the first hearing, you can forget it for the rest of them. I mean, let's just be honest, because if this one isn't successful by, creating the narrative, laying out the timeline, laying
Right.
out who the villains are, giving people, the preview of basically, it's like, look at it like a mob case, like a RICO case. This is all leading up to getting the mob boss, which is Trump.
Right.
How much did he know? When did he know it? What did he direct? What didn't he? What did he do? What didn't he do? We're going to find all that out over the course of this, but they've got to nail it tonight, or else I think you lose the audience.
I think that's right, Tara. And Zona, listen, we live in a time, again, as I mentioned in the previous question, where the other side of the political equation is incentivized to make you nervous, to make you fearful. They want you uncertain. They want you quiet. They want you to shut up. They want you to hide. They want you to not push back. They want you to not fight. And, there are 1,000 progressive organizations out there who talk a great game about policy all day long. But God bless them, 99% of them are not fighters. I want you to be a fighter. I want you to stand up and get in the battle. And yes, it's hard and it sucks and it's awful, but you can do this. You can be an effective voice in this country. And sometimes it's the smallest thing in the world.
Yep.
I talked to a woman the other day who said to me, I loved you guys in 2020. I was so supportive. And I got a little disappointed when all the craziness happened in 21. And I was like, I'm sorry. We did our best in 20. We're doing our best and did our best in 21 to clean things up that went wrong. And we're doing our best to stay in this fight. And she goes, well, I'm back with you guys now for a real simple reason. I'm like, what's that? And she goes, in 2020, one night, I asked you something on Twitter during your show and you answered me. And you said something like, stop complaining, go register people to vote. And that struck me, why she came back, because we don't put up with bullshit here.
Right.
We're not going to soft pedal it. We're not going to tell you tomorrow's going to be sunshine and roses. This is a long, hard fight, folks. We need you with us in it. We need you to stand up with us. You need you to put your voice out there with us. It is important we stay in this fight together. We push hard every day. And the more you fight and the more you stand up and the more you're in this battle, the happier you'll be. Listen, guys,
it's liberating.
I've been doing this now for 7 years. I was one of the first out of the box against Donald Trump in 2015.
Yep,
okay?
Me too.
And for the first year, I questioned every day. I was like, I'm doing the right thing. I know I'm doing the right thing. I was losing my business. Everything was, all my Republican friends were cutting me off. It was the shittiest time of my life in a really meaningful way. Horrible time in my life. Horrible for my kids, my family. Really tough. Okay. But I realized sometime in late 2016, I wasn't going to quit the fight. No matter what they did to me, it wasn't going to matter. No matter what bullshit they pulled, whatever what they said about me, whatever they called me, it wasn't going to stop me from doing the right thing in this fight. And right around that time, I started sleeping much better. I started getting up in the morning like, all right, fuck these guys. and it was still tough. It's still hard. But the more you commit yourself to fighting for this country, the more you commit yourself to fighting for a system of government where the representative democracy that comprises this beautiful fucked up republic of ours, the more you do that, the better you'll feel, the more empowered you'll feel. And we love you guys so much for tuning in. We're going to be back here
after the hearing,
whenever it is,
shortly after the hearing is over. Give us a second.
Yes, I may be wearing nothing but
a
smoking jacket at that point. But
you might get Rick after dark at that point.
Rick after dark, baby.
But
we love you guys. Stick with us later,
and
we're going to keep the live feed going.
Yeah,
we're going to give you a new link on the stream for the live feed here in a second. just
Yep.
because of the technical nature of what we're doing here.
Yep.
But,
And before we go, just to put a point on what you just said to Zona about staying in the fight, it also gives you a sense of purpose. And when you have passion and purpose and you apply that nervousness goes away because you recognize you're involved in something that's bigger than yourself.
That's right.
And that's what we're all doing. That's what this is about. This is bigger than us. This is literally history in the making, and we all get to be a part of writing those chapters. So
we'll be live tweeting it also tonight, folks.
Yes, we will. And as we go, we want to remind you guys of what's on the line. And we're going to play Remember. And then we'll see you guys after the hearings. Take it away.
The world is a very angry place. If you look all over the world.
Let's ride for 45!
There's no amount of sycophancy that will be enough for this man.
Your family will not be safe.
It can only be my personality, that's all.
The news division didn't used to have to make a profit. Then that changed.
All those people in the back are fake news.
You are the enemy of the people.
It's really hard to come out and say I'm a Republican because immediately they think that you're hateful.
But we're not the suckers anymore.
We should have never gotten in bed with the Republican Party.
I am the chosen one.
Most politicians right now react on fear, not on courage.
Very fine people on both sides.
Fucking over, your America's gone, motherfucker.
What do you say to Americans who are watching you right now who are scared?
I say that you're a terrible reporter. That's what I say. The only way we're going to lose this election is if the election is rigged.
He knows that's what it takes to raise an army of patriots who love America and will protect her.
You won't be safe in Joe Biden's America.
I'm a Republican, but I call myself a Trumpican.
Our way of life will be preserved and maintained, so help us God. Guns up!
This can't be our country. This is not our country.
Alleged plot to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer.
We are not one another's enemy. This virus is our enemy.
No religion, no anything. Hurt the Bible, hurt God. Will you shut up, man?
Biden raped his daughter. Biden raped.
Election day in America. It is here.
Former Vice President Joe Biden will win. This is an embarrassment to our country.
2020 election was the most secure in U.S. history.
If you count the legal votes, I easily win.
You all knew it was coming. You could have set your watches to it.
A number of House members plan to object
To the final certification of Joe Biden's victory.
Leaders of Congress are misleading people daily in this by not pushing back.
President Trump's baseless claims of fraud are fueling his supporters.
That's why Republican silence is so deafening right now.
Careful what you
We will not take it anymore.
You can feel the rage, the madness. Let's have trial by combat.
It's election!
We can take that place.
We're seeing protesters overcome the police.
They were terrorists.
An example needs to be made.
They tried to disrupt this country's democracy.
Trump and I, we've had a hell of a journey. I hate it to end this way.
Careful what you wish for.
Donald J. Trump ain't going anywhere.
We have the Republican Party.